Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I'm your teacher Simi Namer and I am here to take your online Pakistan Studies classes. My dear students, I hope you must have enjoyed your Eid days. You know that this COVID-19 pandemic has changed everything for us. The way we live, we communicate, we study, and connect to each other. This pandemic has transformed our lives more swiftly than we could have imagined. It has affected nearly 3 million or more people around the world. Thanks to our country's leadership and education department for taking quick actions and wise decisions. By assuming social distancing and other preventive measures, this is very important for us to stay at home. But my dear students, you are the future of Pakistan. You are a student, and you know, a student is a root of development in a country. So this is very important for us to continue our education process. And for this continuation of our education process, we have decided to start our online classes. So let's start with a new chapter, which is chapter number 11. How successful was the establishment of an independent nation between 1947 and 1948? And the topic is the early problems of Pakistan after partition. Pakistan came into existence on 14 August 1947. Soon after its establishment, Pakistan faced a number of problems. Most of the problems of Pakistan were related with Pakistan dispute with India, such as the accession of the princely states, canal water dispute, refugees problems, and distribution of armed and military assets. In fact, most of these problems were deliberately created by India itself, so the Pakistan would not maintain its independent status and soon merged with India. This was the challenge for the Quaid-e-Azam to establish the new country and to hold it together despite the many problems it faced at the time of partition. Sir Cyril Ratcliffe was appointed as the chairman of both the boundary commissions. The problem started with even the unfair boundary distribution. A boundary commission was set up under a British chairman, Sir Cyril Ratcliffe. He misused his powers and handed over Muslim majority areas like Gurdaspur, Firozpur, and Junagadh to India, hence providing them a gateway to Kashmir. Quaid-e-Azam called it an unjust, incomprehensible, and even perverse award. This will lead to a hottest issue of the world known as the Kashmir issue. Jinnah denounced the Ratcliffe Award, or we can say Jinnah condemned the Ratcliffe Award because the Muslims were disappointed by this decision. Firozpur had a Muslim majority, and the Pakistanis had evidence to suggest that Ratcliffe had originally awarded it to Pakistan, but had been forced by Mountbatten to change his mind. Gurdaspur also had a Muslim majority. By awarding it to India, the Indians now had a border with Kashmir and future disputes between India and Pakistan became inevitable. Jinnah told the people of Pakistan that the awards were wrong, unjust, and perverse. Even Bengal was partitioned and Calcutta was given to India, which was the main industrial area of Bengal. The governor of Punjab secretly got a draft. The draft showed the Firozpur area and its headworks going to Pakistan. When the final draft was released, Firozpur was assigned to India. Announcements of the award was delayed. Award was to be announced on August 12, 1947, but was delayed till August 16, 1947. India and Pakistan had no boundaries for the first 2 days of their existence. The Sikh community was also disappointed with the Ratcliffe Award because they made up a large proportion of the population in the Punjab and had important historical and religious associations with it. They wanted a separate Sikh state if partition was to go ahead. This came to nothing, and Lord Mountbatten announced, "I have spent a great deal of time seeing whether there was any solution which would keep the Sikh community more together. I'm not a miracle worker and I have not found that solution. So the Punjab was divided on the basis of majority areas of Muslims and non-Muslims. Sikh community migrated into the Indian Punjab where they claimed for a separate Sikh state was to be renewed immediately after partition. And even then in October 1984, like later, Mrs. Gandhi, the Prime Minister of India, was assassinated by Sikh community. Mrs. Gandhi's son Rajiv took over as Prime Minister. He openly accused Pakistan of having a role in the Sikh separatist movement. However, Hindus too had some complaints about the award. For example, they most resented the fact that the Chittagong Hill tracts were not awarded to India. These had a large Hindu majority, and Nehru believed they should become part of India. However, the tracts were regarded as having a vital economic relationship with East Bengal, so Radcliffe awarded them to Pakistan. Another problem was a geographical problem. Most countries have natural borders such as rivers, mountains, or the sea. These are clear indicators of where one country's territory ends and another country's territory begins. But this was not the case with Pakistan in 1947. Indeed, the country was split into two separate parts almost 1,000 miles apart. One was East Pakistan and the other one was West Pakistan. The East Pakistan comprised of most of Bengal but not Calcutta and the district of Sylhet which voted in a referendum to join Pakistan. The West Pakistan comprised of West Punjab, Sindh, Balochistan and the northwest frontier province which is now Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The princely states of Dir, Swat, Chitral, Hunza, Gilgit and Bahawalpur also joined Pakistan. The two wings of Pakistan were separated by about 1,000 miles of land that belonged to India. The vast distance between them also meant that there were significant differences in outlook between the people of the two different regions. Bengal and the West Punjab, for example, were both largely Muslim areas, but they had little else in common. Another problem was the political problem. After partition, the British India was divided into two new countries, Pakistan and India. But Pakistan was to face many more problems than India. Because India inherited government buildings, furnishings, even officials from the British. Pakistan had none of these. India had officials, members of the Indian National Congress with political experience to take over the government. In Pakistan, the assembly members were mostly wealthy landowners with little political experience. The majority of government and army leaders came from West Pakistan. The geographical separateness of East and West Pakistan made it hard to govern as one country. It gave rise to the feeling of separateness and provincialism in East Pakistan. So the Quaid-e-Azam, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, warned the people about this grave tendency to provincialism. He addressed the nation and said that none of us is a Punjabi, Sindhi, Balochi, Pathan or Bengali. Every one of us should think, feel and act as a Pakistani and we should feel proud of being Pakistani alone. Another problem was the administrative problem. Pakistan lacked both the administrative and the governmental machinery to run the affairs of the new country. The Quaid-e-Azam would need to find a capital, a government and officials to ensure the efficient government of the new state. Workable administrative machinery could not be set up because of the great difficulties caused by Congress. A workable administrative and government machinery needed to run the affairs of the country, acute shortage of experienced personnel in the central and provincial government, and shortage of furniture and stationery because everything was left in India. Pakistan was made up of states that were mostly underdeveloped with very little industry. So another problem comes with economic crisis. Pakistan mostly consisted of economically backward and underdeveloped areas after existence. The agriculture system was outdated, which added to the economic backwardness of the areas forming part of Pakistan. Before partition, the Hindus, with the blessings of the British government, had acquired completely monopoly in the trade and commerce. The entire capital was in the hands of the Indians. Moreover, the banks and other financial institutes were located in Indian territory. States of Pakistan were mostly underdeveloped with very little industry. Much of the Pakistan territory was on the borders of subcontinent. Around 90% people lived in the countryside. 8 towns with a population of more than 100,000 people. The major industries were also in those areas which were part of India. Besides these factories, the technical experts and laborers who operated the industries were all Hindus because the Muslims extremely lagged behind in education and financial capability. The unsecured system of transportation and communication also made an adverse effect on economic development of the country. The railway system and river transportation in East Pakistan was in depleted condition. The roads were in shabby and irreparable condition. The communication and transportation system in West Pakistan comparatively was in better position. Agriculture did not produce sufficient surplus to create wealth needed for industrialization. As a problem of partition, Pakistan did not receive a single jute mill, although East Pakistan produced more than 90% jute. We can say the world's largest jute production was in East Pakistan. Pakistan produced 14% of the British India cotton. It only had 14 of 394 textile mills. Most of the industrial areas remain in India, like Calcutta, which was taken away from Bengal, and Bengal became the East Pakistan, the east wing of Pakistan. But it was taken away and given to India, which was an industrial area. So the percentage of economic assets in Pakistan after partition was that registered factories were only 10%. So we have only 10% of registered factories. The industrial workers were only 6.5%, and the electrical capacity was 5% only. And for industrial areas or for industrialization, we need electricity to run the industries, to power the industries. And mineral deposits in Pakistan remain 10%. So that was a miserable condition of Pakistan, the miserable economic condition of Pakistan. Another problem was a constitutional problem. You may not have this topic in your book, but you can add this problem in your answer. Constitutional problem was that Pakistan had to frame its own constitution or laws because Pakistan had to run its own country. At the time of establishment of Pakistan, the Government of India Act 1935 became the working constitution of Pakistan with certain adoptions. The need of a constitution framed by the elected representatives of the people was necessary for free people. So the first Constituent Assembly was formed and was given the task to frame the constitution of our country. But the Constituent Assembly failed to frame a constitution even in 8 years. Lack of a permanent constitution created chances of corrupt interference in democratic progress of Pakistan. And the first constitution was framed in 1956. On 29 February 1956, Pakistan's first constitution was adopted by a second Constituent Assembly. It was formally enforced on 23rd March. The constitution was a compromise between the wishes of the two important parties, the Muslim League and the United Front, and neither was completely satisfied. The constitution was to last only for 2 years before President Mirza, the office of Governor General was replaced with that of President in the constitution, declared martial law and scrapped the new constitution. So it remained a problem for Pakistan even for several years. So I think this is enough for today's lecture. We will continue inshallah with a few more problems in the next lecture. Let me give you an assignment. Please do these two questions. The first question is a what question, the question that starts from what, so you know that you have to create your answer for 4 marks. And the second question is explain why. So here is the why question, and you know that you have to create your answer for 7 marks. For 4 mark question, you know that you have to create your answer for a paragraph. And the question is, what was the geographical problems of Pakistan after partition? So it's just a geographical problem, and you have to say that Pakistan was facing a problem of not having a natural borders with India, and it was divided. It was comprised of 2 wings, the East Pakistan and the West Pakistan. Both of the wings were more vulnerable for any of the attack from India. And the second question is explain why do you think that Red Award was denounced by the Indians? So here you have to give 3 paras at least. You have to give 3 reasons, and you have 3 reasons even in this lecture. When you go to the Red Award, the distribution of the boundaries, you will see that the award was denounced by Jinnah. And that was the first reason why Jinnah denounced the award, why Muslims were disappointed. And in the second paragraph, you can give the reasons why the Sikh community were disappointed. And in the third paragraph, you can give like why some of the Hindus had complaints about the Red award. So you have to give all 3 reasons in 3 different paras for 7 marks. Thank you so much dear students for watching this video. I'll come again with another video in the second lecture with few more initial problems of Pakistan. Thank you.